Hey, everybody, welcome to Black Lotus Live, where we have a roundtable discussion weekly to talk about all things strange and unusual. And tonight we are going to be talking about Hat Man and Shadow People. And we have some pretty incredible footage for you that was taken by one of our guests, as well as the incomparable Heidi Hollis, who was the first to coin the terms Hat Man and Shadow People. So coming up on Black Lotus. Conspiracy theories, the paranormal, UFOs, aliens, and all things strange and unusual. This is Black Lotus. Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hello, everybody.
Howdy. All is well.
Viewers, sorry about the delay on this tonight. We had some technical problems, but we are on now. So throughout this thing today, I'm going to interject with some questions that the members of the Black Lotus discussion group had. A few of them had some questions about this. And the first question I want to jump to right now is one actually from my wife. And I want to direct this to you, Heidi, because I think you could explain it very well. She asked, please explain the difference between Hat Man and Shadow People, and is there a difference?
Yeah. So originally when I first presented the topic of Shadow People, I had included Hat Man to be another form that Shadow People took, but it didn't take long for the reports to take a whole new life of their own. So the difference between Hat Man and just regular Shadow People is he can step out from the shadows and be just as solid as you or I. So that's a major difference. So so I used to call him Hat Man Shadow, and unfortunately that stuck with people like, oh, he's a Shadow People. I'm like, he leads the Shadow People, but he can totally appear as one, but he is wow. I mean, he wears clothes for a reason, you know. So okay. he could totally and he commands the show, and he talks. He's very talkative at times, and yeah. So and his whole demeanor, his whole feel is 1,000 times darker than when you're in the presence of just plain old Shadow People.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
Well, I have a question about that. You say he leads it. Have you found that people see him first before they see the Shadow People? Because that was the case with us here at the house. When back when we first moved to Las Vegas, my stepdaughter had her boyfriend over and for dinner, and he brought his 3-year-old with him. And you can see the front door of our house from our dining room. And as we were sitting there having dinner, the little girl kept looking over toward the door. Mm-hmm. And finally I said, sweetie, what do you see over there? She said, there's a man standing there. And I said, okay. And I looked and I didn't see anything. And I said, do me a favor, close your eyes for a moment and then reopen them and tell me if he's still there. So she did. And when she opened him again, she said that she couldn't see him anymore. And I said, well, you know, what did he look like? She said he was just standing there smiling, and he had a hat on and like a long coat.
Yeah.
And so, but then later on, once Ralph moved here with us, we started seeing a shadow person in our hallway.
Okay.
And, I mean, it was there just for a blink of an eye. You would see it out of the corner of your eye, and as soon as you focus your attention on it, it would split.
Wow.
And so, but we never saw the Hat Man necessarily again.
Mm-hmm.
But we did see the shadow person a lot up until maybe about 6 months ago.
Right.
Oh, amazing. How would you describe the shadow person?
Tall, broad shoulders, you know, and you know, the head was like almost shaped like a light bulb kind of thing, but very broad shoulders. And but, I mean, he almost encompassed the width of the hallway. You know?
Oh yeah. Were you able to see a distinguishable neck to his head?
No, it was just like broad shoulders and then the head, you know?
Yeah.
And like I said, he never stuck around long enough to really get a good look at him. I mean, again, we would be sitting in our living room watching television and we would catch it. I mean, and we all did, Ralph, myself, and my wife, you know, and even our cat would freak out occasionally. I mean, she would be sitting on the couch and she would be sitting up, you know, how cats do on their hind legs. And she's just glaring down the hall, you know, and she never, you know, hissed or anything like that, but it was obvious that there was something strange in the house. Right.
I call that one the head and shoulder shadow. Just, I don't know. I mean, it just doesn't seem to have much of a neck. But no, there doesn't seem to be a distinctive pattern with which one will show up first as far as shadow people or the Hat Man. But there's definitely more than one shadow being versus Hat Man. There tends to be one of him in any one location, but a lot of people would ask me, are there actually more than one Hat Man? Well, I think there is a single one, but I think he's got trainees. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Okay, that actually brings me to another quick question here, and this is just a question that I have. So obviously, then there are different shadow beings, different types. And we even had a cat here that we thought was a spirit cat. But I'm betting that it was, I mean, do shadow people shapeshift?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Shadow cat is one of them. Yep. Shadow clouds, shadow rodents, shadow streaks. You think a big bug is in your place. It just seems to manifest into different forms. And that's why I honestly had thought that Hat Man was another form that they took, because I personally didn't see him for a very long time. I wasn't the one who seen him. My friend and I, that college roommate that had experienced him and drew that picture that everybody's ripped off all over the world. But yeah, so she had experienced him and I just assumed, I'm like, well, must be another form they take. So yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Guys, what do you think about this?
I have a quick question here. No, why don't you? Yeah, go first, Wild Trees, please.
Okay,
go ahead.
It's great to see all you guys, by the way. So it's awesome.
It's good to see you too.
Thank you. Well, first I'll say one account that how I'm familiar with Hat Man was really interesting. There's this guy. His name is Thinker Thunker. So he's got a channel. It's mainly UFOs, Thinker Thunker, but he's got a sister channel. I forget what it's called, but he says basically one night he was asleep. He woke up, there was a tall man at the foot of his bed with a hat on. He couldn't really see him. And then he remembers just like kicking him as hard. Oh yeah, the Hat Man picked up his foot by the toe while he was sleeping. And then Thinker Thunker says he remembers kicking the Hat Man as hard as he could with his foot. And then the Hat Man just kind of went back and then just kind of dematerialized.
Oh my gosh. So crazy.
So that sounds like what you're saying. And this guy's highly credible. I mean, I really believe it. So my follow-up question is, what is the intention? What is the desire of the Hat Man?
Oh gosh. There's a lot of different things behind why he comes around, but what is his desire? He wants you. He came for you. He came for the husk, the soul, the body, the whole thing. I mean, he is very, very interested in the human soul. And it's so disturbing and it's so dark, all the things that he does to people. And that's the distinction, another distinction between him and shadow people. Shadow people, you spot them. Sometimes they'll come right at you to be like, stop looking at me. But usually they whisk away and run away. He wants you to see him. Hat Man wants you to see him. So he'll wait. He'll wait until you get a good look. He'll wake you up.
Why do you think that is, Heidi?
Well, it's interesting to me because if he didn't want that respectful fear, he would change it up, right? Or not people to catch on to his pattern. He would change himself and in ways that made him like, well, you just can't compare him to other reports. But he wants this rumor out there. He wants this going on, and I think he is enjoying the fear of what it is he's able to do to people, because when people reach that certain level of fear, I've had so many people say, I get to such a level of fear, I give up. I'm like, just kill me already. Do whatever. They can't handle it anymore. And so I think he gets startled when people fight back, like a kick to the throat or whatever the guy did. I mean, he kicked him. He's probably like, it blows my mind how he gets startled when people fight back instead of sitting in fear. So why it is, I mean, it really seems like he wants this reverence. He wants this. And but also I'm on the
feeds on it.
Yes, he does. But I'm also on the notion that, with knowledge comes strength, power. We're able to empower each other. I mean, sitting alone in the knowledge of having kicked something dark in the body and disappeared, and you think you're the only one. I mean, I don't see that being beneficial. So hopefully by informing people that they're not alone in this is it's a big part of taking him on. But yeah, he does seem to really feed off from the fear that he's able to create. And when you're fearful, your guard is not always at its best, so he takes advantage.
Michael, what do you think about this?
So I'm listening to you talk. First of all, it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Here. I appreciate it. So, this is a subject that I've been following for quite some time. And some of the things that you're mentioning are jogging certain things in my memory that I haven't necessarily found connections to. So I'm going to throw a few things out at you, whatever you can answer. Great. If not, we'll kind of continue on and move forward here. So as you're talking about the Hat Man, you're saying in some respects that he has a physical element to him, whereas shadow people may be more etheric. Am I correct in understanding that?
Yes, generally.
Okay. So if that's the case, is the Hat Man as the entity, is he more of a preternatural being or something supernatural? And to kind of just add on to that, in respect to his intentions, we understand that we all live in a duality, and there is the yin and the yang, the right and the left, so forth. Could he possibly be, as a singularity, somebody who is, or something that is there to sort of keep a balance in an ecosystem of sort that we can't necessarily see the entirety of?
It's almost like I don't know if I'm hearing you right to say is he a necessary evil?
in a sense, but if he's existing, he must be part of this balance that we understand to be the whole. And I think having these conversations and experiences, we're trying to place him within that in our reality and justify his existence. What do you think?
I don't think that I don't feel he belongs. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and he's here and he's as strong as he is because obviously we're feeding him what he wants. He doesn't come usually to people's lives fully invited. It's usually under the camouflage of something else, or people are vulnerable. So I would say that he's not creating a balance. He's taking advantage of the discourse and the imbalance in people's lives and tries to knock them over to the other side. So I don't feel he's meant to be here. And in fact, I think that escorting him out the door is really ultimately my goal. I don't know how far back you guys know of my background, but it goes pretty far back, and I have been talking about this for a long time, but people pretty much tread on this light surface of, what are the shadow people? Why do they do this and that? But I remember before I was born, as strange as that sounds, and it's not like I meditated, regressed, or anything like that, but I remember agreeing to come here during this time for this purpose to speak against these things, to help people get rid of them. And, it is what it is. These things are utterly evil. They don't belong here. This is not their home. They have come here, and this is not the first planet they've done this to. So we may call them demons. We may call them dark angels or fallen angels. What are angels? They're not from this planet either. So my understanding, as it was told to me, is that they are a conquering type of source, a dark source that feeds them to conquer other beings, to get them to turn on each other, and to essentially not allow for us, mankind, to reach their full potential. Because guess what? The number one thing I've found that Hat Man is attracted to, it's not devil worshippers. It's not people who are dying. It's people who are gifted. It's people who have the special insight and are able to see and do different things than others. And I think all of us have an ability to a certain extent, but he really goes after those people with a certain sight. And he wants to stomp it out, and he wants to control that. So when you think about that, it's like, wow, the human potential, how far could we get if this guy wasn't scaring people to distrust their own eyes, to distrust their own inner knowings? And, he's disruptive. He's totally shaking humankind down. And these other dark things, the shadow beings that are all working together. And the more negative alien beings, a lot of people wonder, what is it that these negative alien beings have in common? And are there really negative beings? Well, as I was told, these beings that come and take over people's lives, as far as abductions and rape and all these horrible things, they're conquered. They've been conquered by shadow beings. They have been essentially having their strings being pulled. So this is the commonality, the common thread that they have in their lives to infiltrate ours. So people have seen Hat Man next to aliens, shadow people next to them. Happened to me, it's like, so what are we dealing with here? Interdimensionals? Yes. Outer space? Yes. It's all of the above, because they know how to infiltrate and to manipulate.
If Hat Man appears to be sentient, what does that mean for shadow people and how we should be understanding their existence?
Oh, they're very aware as well. I mean, honestly, they know what they're doing. They know what's going on. They're almost like the minions of Hat Man. So when Hat Man shows up, it lets me know he's really meaning business.
Okay.
Shadow people, they can do a lot of the similar stuff, but when he comes around, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have people that have nightly visitations from him, daily. Can you imagine that? And it's like, wow, who is this person? He is really after. I had a lady recently get in touch with me about a similar thing. Didn't matter if she went out for dinner, Hat Man would show up with her fiance, shaking the table. Horrible stuff. It gives me chills even when I think about it. And I was like, a lot of times people will write me and they don't give me the in-depth version of what's going on. They're like, this and that is happening. I'm like, and it started 2 years ago. I'm like, what happened 2 years ago? Please tell me, because this is why he's there. Whatever happened 2 years ago. And would you believe this lady, she was given 2 months to live with cancer, and she was miraculously saved. Hat Man sat at her bedside every day. She didn't know who he was. Every day as she's dying of cancer and gets cured out of nowhere. So Hat Man was obviously thinking, this soul is mine. And he didn't get what he felt was his. And here she is. A lot of people that are on the brink of death get gifts. And obviously her gift is being shadowed by all of his dark garbage and all these other dark minions coming around. So, but imagine if he and those things were cleared out. What could she see? What could she do? He doesn't want that.
John, where are you at with this? You were saying that you have a shadow being living in your house, and you also have these strange orbs and things that just, I've always been on the fence about orbs because, I mean, they could be dust particles, but I've watched the videos of your orbs and they don't look like dust particles. They don't look like the typical orb kind of situation, and I know the digital cameras pick up dust particles pretty easily. But again, the videos you have just are kind of unexplainable. Oh, John, something's up with your. There you go.
I apologize. But I set up cameras like 4 or 5 months ago to actually try to capture an alien abduction. That was my goal. That was the purpose for my cameras. And I've been capturing orbs and shadow people and spirits pretty much on a daily basis ever since then. But
Wow.
As far as shadow people, I've seen him a few times where I live now. And I kind of learned the trick is when you see him in the corner of your eye, just don't turn your head. A lot of people think their peripherals aren't as good as the rest of your eyes, but I mean, my peripherals, I can see fine. So I just keep looking straight and try to get the best look I can before I turn my head. And that seemed to work. Every time I turn my head, he just ducks away. But I do have it on camera. And what's shocking is it tries to avoid the camera. It kind of scurries around to try to not be filmed. It's also Heidi. Nice to meet you, by the way.
Nice to meet you too, John.
I have a quick question for you before I continue.
Yeah.
So in 2010, I thought I saw a shadow person standing over my bed, looking down the hallway. But this figure was completely had like all the detail of somebody in clothing being perfectly outlined in solid black. Have you ever heard anything about a shadow person that looks like an actual detailed human but blacked out?
Yeah. That hat man doesn't always wear a hat, so that could have been him.
But I saw like hair and the shirt and like the shirt tucked in, like just like a regular person. And it turned at me and it was like startled. Like I caught it over my bed and it jumped into my wall and ran down my hallway as a shadow, making like a mechanical noise, and like turned the corner and went down the wall, down the stairs.
And it made a mechanical sound. That really does sound more like a hat man. He does. People do see him with just like his outline and not seeing, his hat or anything like that. But when you say mechanical sound, because he's related to what's going on with the alien phenomenon, that makes me think that it may have been him. But there are also, don't get me wrong, there are also ghosts that can look very dark as well. So there's that possibility. But when you say mechanical sound, I think of them. But I wanted to mention something. You talked about your peripheral vision. It's actually more sensitive between lights and darks. So that's why you can see shadow beings off to the side. It's our startle. It's our, our caveman days. If something's coming in to kill you, it's actually more accurate for seeing peripherally. So that's why we can see them better that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got a very good look of them, and it's exactly as Damien's described. It had like the flat, broad shoulders, the light bulb head.
Yeah.
And the way it popped out behind the wall, it popped out like on like a 45-degree angle. So it couldn't have been like standing up. It was weird the angle it came out at. It was, and I was watching TV and I saw it in the corner of my eye because it blocked out the light from my kitchen. But I didn't turn my head right away. I kind of froze, but I kept looking in the corner of my eye, and I got a real good look at it. But as soon as I turned my head, it was ducked away like that fast.
Wow.
super fast.
Wow. Crazy.
I've got a question for you. Hat Man aside, there seems to be different types of shadow beings there, and some of them seem to be very aggressive, and then others seem to be just content to watch us. Why do you think that is?
It's amazing to me because they could have a lot of patience, and it's almost as if they go out to try to see what your weaknesses are, and so they'll observe. And I don't know if they must be reporting in or something. And I've had so many people that write me and say, well, mine weren't bad. They just sat there in the corner watching me. And I'm like, what do you think they're trying to do? I mean, they're totally trying to figure you out and see, like, well, let's see if he gets sick. Let's see if he has an injury. Or even try to conjure up static between you and your spouse or something. So their presence is really a negative one that I don't know. I've had people say they got into a rage for no reason, like their temper got short, and they were seeing this thing in their peripheral, and they just couldn't understand what was going on. So, totally, it's like it's kind of like a setup, to be honest. I mean, it is. It's like, but yeah, a lot of people that have written to me even saying for years how these things seem docile, and then all of a sudden he got really angry one day and pinned me down. Oh yeah, it builds up, especially if you notice the presence being there for quite some time. It's nothing to take lightly, because they're just waiting. They're waiting their time to come at you stronger.
Is it reasonable to say that these entities are predatory?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's absolutely disgusting, you guys, what these things do and what they're capable of. I've had thousands of stories sent to me over the years, and it's just the level that these things will go. You just can't even imagine. Children. I mean, parents think, oh, give my phone to my kid to let them calm themselves down and play with the games. Some of these stinkers are writing me, and they're saying, hi, I'm 8 years old. They always got to tell me their age in the first line of it. And it's like, hi, I'm 8 years old. I'm seeing Hat Man or shadow people or whatever. And they're like, my parents think I'm crazy. Please help. That's why I did a kid's book, because once they tell me their age, I can't write back to these little kids, and just to tell them, well, I got a kid's book. Ask your parents to get this, and I'll show you how to bless your space to keep them away. It's just so low, these things, what they do.
Heidi, how long has this been going on, by your estimate? I mean, what's the historical factor?
Honestly, it seems rather biblical. I mean, where did this shape-shifting evil topic ever come from? Why has this been something of legend and rumor forever? It just seems like in every belief, in every culture, there's been this deceptive darkness that creeps around. So to put a date, to put a time on it, it just seems timeless, and it seems progressive as well. When COVID hit, I knew things were going to accelerate, and wow. I mean, people are home alone, isolated, depressed because they can't work, and they're about to be evicted, and people are getting sick and dying. They're just sopping it up with a biscuit. I mean, these dark things are just going out and having a blast. So I think there's certain times in through history that they peak a bit as far as their activity, but it seems like things are just culminating just to horrible levels these days. But I think it's something that's been with us since the beginning.
Really? Somebody in the chat room has asked, I think his name is Frapsap. He asked, is there a connection between the Hat Man and shadow people and the Slender Man? I think I can probably answer that. I think that Hat Man and Shadow People are real entities, while Slender Man is most likely what's that called? Creepypasta?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was created by that. So I'm not so sure that the Slender Man exists. What do you guys think?
Slender Man does not exist, but I'll tell you, it was based off from Hat Man sightings. So essentially, I'm calling it Hat Man. He calls it Slender Man. He's got the same outfit on, going after children. And another thing that is a fascinating link between Slender Man and Hat Man. This is so crazy. What was it? 2 weeks after? Okay, so like Hat Man had never come at me straight on, but just before I was about to put the book that was directly based on him, he came at me left and right. I'm a therapist. He went after my patients even at a skilled nursing facility that I was working at twice, 2 days in a row, in front of God and everybody. And it just ridiculous. And 2 weeks after I put that book out, the Slender Man story about those two girls that attacked their friend that stabbed her.
Right.
You heard that story?
Of course.
That occurred about a 15-minute drive from the place I grew up at.
Wow.
Yeah, so very, very personable, very in my face, and letting me know. So, and one of the little girls was able to convince the other one that Slender Man was real, because that little girl said, "I saw him when I was little." Well, who could that have been? Hat Man?
Right.
So yeah, so there's that tie. But yeah, Slender Man was a ripoff of Hat Man, essentially.
Is there a connection between a poltergeist and Hat Man and Shadow People?
Oh, I do hear about a lot of poltergeist activity happening around a place that's having that phenomenon. So, in fact, Shadow People are behind essentially every major haunting.
So I've heard that, you were mentioning that the Hat Man doesn't really care if you see him. In fact, he probably wants you to see him. And some of the descriptions that I've heard of Hat Man is that he's often seen looking at like a pocket watch. And so some people think that he may be a harbinger of doom. What do you think about it? Do you think that that's feasible?
He does have that pocket watch on him. I don't often hear of him glancing at it, but people see it glistening on his hip. But yeah, so he is everything that you can imagine that is darkness itself. So if he can bring doom and gloom, he is so going to aim for that. And in fact, that's his whole point, is to try to get enough people to do his bidding, to gather up souls. Freddy Krueger was based on Hat Man, right? So Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it's like, what did he do? He gathered the young and he took their souls. But yeah, I heard the creator, what was his name? I can't think of his name right now. But yeah, that he'd heard of these nighttime horror stories going on with people seeing this guy in a hat. And there came Freddy Krueger.
Is there a positive equivalent to Hat Man, like something similar to Hat Man, but it's not evil, like it's good
Yes.
intention?
That takes him on? It's called Jesus.
Okay.
It's like I've had so many people. It's so wild because I get it. There's a lot of people who have lost their faith out there. I mean, there's been horrible things in the church that have happened and whatnot, and I get these people. It's like, so I saw the devil himself. I'm not into that religious thing, but what do? Throw a shoe at it, then, because it's like, you just admitted the devil exists, but you don't want to admit that the polar opposite exists. I don't get that. What are we afraid of? It's like, I'm Christian. I'm never hesitant to say that. And there was no way I could be sitting here and be okay and talking about these absolute demonic things and not be possessed or ripped apart if I didn't have that backing. So it really takes you having that faith in that polar opposite to put your ethereal foot in the backside of these things, and to call on the powers that be, because man, it's brutal if you don't.
Do you think that religion is necessary to understand the phenomenon of Hat Man? And if so, what part might it play?
I think it's important to have this level of understanding that this play between light and dark, and how they are impacting our lives and impacting our future. This has been around from the beginning. We've had these rumors, and the rumor of a guy named Jesus has been around for a long time. So it's like, well, gee, we've set our calendars to this guy. Perhaps there's something to what he did. I mean, there had to be a lot of things that kept this momentum and understanding of this impact of someone positive coming down to say, this is how you push aside darkness. So I think it's important to have that perspective. And it's like, I'm not a church attending, total Bible thumping. I'm just keeping it real. I mean, it's like, you are looking into, I don't think people understand that fear when you are looking at something that has the Joker smile from ear to ear, with teeth like Pennywise from It, looking within an inch of your face. He doesn't know personal space. He's right here, and threatening your soul. And then he takes it to an extra level, and he takes his fist and punches it into your chest and starts tugging on your soul. And then he rapes you, man or woman, doesn't matter. And he's laughing the whole time. How do you keep your sanity? Imagine that. And those are the emails I'm getting. These are the stories I'm hearing. And it doesn't matter who it is. It's so sick and so disgusting. And people are afraid to say they believe in God or Jesus. But you just got raped by the demon of all demons, and they don't like to talk about that part. And usually, but it's like, I'll get those emails that are reluctant, and then it comes in there somewhere, and they're telling me, it's bad, guys. It's really bad. And I don't even know how to better express it to people. Like, these are dark times that we're in right now. People never thought we could have such a threat as an invisible COVID thing, but here we are. And I'm talking about a threat of this thing. And I've had thousands of emails, one person on this thing going after people. There's something to this. There's something going on. We've got these ancient texts that have talked about evil coming for us, and it is here. And people are afraid to stand on their faith. I'm like, come on now, people. All the Bible asks is for you to have the faith the size of a mustard seed, and it works. Come on, we have to do better and not be so fearful, and keeping it real. I'm all about that. We have to.
Well, how might this relate to Christ consciousness? I'm sorry, I don't mean to usurp the next one here, but I'll ask this one and I'll back off a little bit. How might this relate to Christ consciousness? Now, I understand if you're a religious person and you put your faith in Jesus, for example, you're intimately connecting yourself to that energy in some way. But in respect to what people have said in relation to the second coming of Christ, it wasn't necessarily a physical deity that would show up, but a consciousness in which we could all embody that have basically reflected who we know Jesus was back in the time that he was alive. Do you think that raising your vibration and really undergoing the real spiritual healing and work that it takes for somebody to come up into that next vibration is really a safeguard towards some of these predatory entities? Or do you think that we need to have some other tool or some other way of being would be more appropriate in approaching these sort of things?
So you're wondering if people just have to be the best that they can be to reach this consciousness that is kind of floating in the ethers, versus having what may seem like a deity that we put our faith behind?
In a sense, in relation to spirituality and what people have been working on, again, in terms of self-healing, in doing that sort of self-healing, that clearing, taking all of that stuff that we've accumulated over lifetimes out of their energetic field, they find themselves in a higher vibration that, for example, doesn't necessarily recognize the lower vibrations the same way that you and I might, being closer into vibration. So my question, to rephrase it a little bit, is if you were to undertake a form of spirituality or a modality of sort that would allow you to do that internal healing, would that be a safe way to approach the warriorship aspect of keeping yourself as a whole from this entity? Or should we be putting more faith, again, in certain texts and, the more literal figure that we know as Jesus Christ?
It's quite literal for me. Okay. Because I know, I'll tell you guys, while I was in college, I didn't know anybody who went to bed early on a Saturday night to get up to go to church on a Sunday, So I was really very much about, I had seen alien beings. I had lived in a haunted house. I grew up in one, and all these different things. That was more real to me than anything. And yeah, I was raised in the church, and I knew I was supposed to say in Jesus' name for all my prayers and all this stuff. I had all this rehearsed stuff. I thought Jesus was this biblical figure who did his thing and is supposed to come back one day. And, he was more of a historical figure to me. So I was experiencing so much.
Oh.
Did. And then I had an encounter that changed everything for me. I was in college. I had written the book, The Secret War, in 1997. And I had so many promises the book was going to be published by all these different authors in our field, okay? Because those are the only people that would publish such a book. So it had been among a lot of people, let's put it that way. And just before getting that book, like finally getting it published, I had an encounter that the only thing I could say was it was Jesus Christ. It was. And I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't praying every night. I wasn't reading a Bible or anything like that. But a physical, like, type of experience that totally changed my whole perspective. And I didn't understand prior where this would fit. There's UFOs, and then there's fluffy clouds. I'm like, I didn't get it. And I used to say, oh, I'm spiritual. I'm spiritual. I thought that covered my bases. I should be good. I didn't know. And then to have had the encounter that I did, and all I could say was, wow, Jesus is no joke. I mean, and my friends saw the change. I'm like, the dude is real. Like, he is around. Like, oh my goodness. I mean, everything I ever thought was out the window. So a lot of people want to play the safe route with, I'm spiritual. I have Christ consciousness, fluffiness somewhere. I get it. I understand people want to get to this point of being okay. I don't want to have to follow a certain ruled religion or something. And, I get it. I really do. And I wish it was, so easy to just be in this little middle ground. But I'm finding more and more that being in the middle ground, it's not cutting it. Some of my closest friends, they're Muslim and they're Jewish. Do I think that they're going to be screwed? I don't think so. It's like they and others, when they're putting their dedication towards this God figure that is the polar opposite of this negative thing, there is that it does help stave off this negativity. So I'd like to think they're not going to hell. I'm not going to say they're going to hell, or anything like that. But I think that there's something placing their bets on us to not get it right, to try to think they'll be okay in this little middle ground. And I can't even tell you how many people have written to me that have been sick in a hospital bed, and Hat Man is lingering, sitting next to their bed, counting their times. I host radio shows too, and And I've had near-death experience authors come on. I'm like, they're all talking about love and light and fluffiness. I'm like, yeah. Okay, how about the people that don't have these near-death experiences where they see all this great stuff? And they said, oh, that's interesting because they see this man in a hat show up. So, people with it's like we could say that it's, maybe if we get into this mediocre and build up our Christ consciousness connection, I get it. It seems like it would be okay, but who's taking on that guy directly? Who's punching his fist through my chest, trying to drag me off to who knows what, So I think we just need to stand more steadily and just say where we are and not put our faith into the person at the front of a church preaching, but into the one and only God, for crying out loud. I don't think that's too hard to ask for if you want to save yourself the wrath of these things.
Heidi, I want to break in here real quick because you were talking about the COVID-19 lockdown and how, there's that old saying, like attracts like. And I know that this whole thing, it's very unnatural for us. We're social beings, and it's unnatural for us to distance ourselves from other people. And so a lot of people are very depressed right now. And so I wonder if that's why you're getting a lot of emails over this last year about having seen the Hat Man or shadow people themselves, because I think a lot of people are, simply depressed.
Oh yes, definitely. These things are having a field day. What was really disturbing to me at first was the quietness, and I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, I know this is going to happen. And sure enough, it's gone to this explosive reporting of these things going on, and it's definitely it's having a field day. So many people are, if they're not dying, they're sick, they're depressed, they're financially destroyed. So much is going on. So yeah, it's having a field day. So it's getting stronger, and we should all be really disturbed by that because it's winning right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. John, I'd like to switch this back over to you real quick, because one of Paul Dellis, who is a member of our group over at Facebook, he asked, do our brains find reason behind what we see versus what we are taught? And so I think he's talking about what is it called? Pareidolia, something like that. And that's it. Yeah. And, but you have actual footage of one of these beings. I was wondering if you can cover that.
Yeah. So I told you guys the original reason why I set the cameras up, and then I started capturing orbs. So as the orbs continued, I started capturing figures. And then I would maneuver my cameras around my living room to get the best angles where I last saw the figure. And just one morning, I see a light appear off camera, and a shadow person runs through the light behind my couch and pops up and looks at the camera and then pops back down. And then 10 minutes, not 10 minutes, about 10 seconds later, the light just disappears.
Wow.
And I wasn't home for this. I was already at work, and that startled me. That kind of got me shooken up, because that was the first footage of something that looked pretty physical. When it popped his head up, you can see its shoulders and the head. And to me, it looks like it looks directly at the camera and ducks down, like it didn't want to be seen by it.
Oof.
Can you show us a screenshot of this?
I don't have a screenshot, but I do have the video, the actual footage of it.
Okay, yeah.
So, let's see. Yeah, I have it down here in the StreamYard. Is that something that you have to add to the?
Yeah, I think I've got it here. Yeah.
Okay. So let me pull this up on my computer. All right. So over here to the right, you will see a light appear, and you'll see a short shadow kind of scurry across. It's about this height originally. It definitely changes its shape once it gets behind here, and then it'll pop up and show itself. So let me fast forward to that scene. And while this is going on, there is orbs and stuff flying around. All right, here you go. So in 5 seconds, you'll see to the right the light appear, the shadow run out, and it'll pop right up. But that's the light. And there it goes across. And there it peeks its head out and ducks back down.
Ugh.
I'll play that again. Yeah, I get goosebumps looking at it now, but the first time I saw this, I was pretty shocked.
Yeah, that's disturbing.
Folks watching this, you may want to make this full screen so you can see it really well. But yeah, it's fascinating footage.
I'm sorry, let me rewind it one more time. There's the light and then it scurries. But then it gets bigger when it, like, right there, you see the head and the shoulder and it drops down.
It's amazing.
I can't imagine what that would be. I mean, other than a shadow person.
Yeah.
And then the light will just disappear. It'll just close in a few seconds, and that's that. And I tried to replicate the light, and it definitely wasn't home. So I tried to figure out what it could be. And there's nothing in that area of that room that could go on like that by itself, or to even project that kind of light going across. I have all my in the ceiling, and then this one lamp you see behind the couch is the only lamp on that side of the room.
The thing that I'm a little bit curious about is because it's so small. It's such a small being. It makes me think alien.
There you go, John.
and to have a light that it like, is it a portal it went into? Interdimensional, like, alien being? I mean, it's so tiny. It's so tiny.
Yeah. I mean, with me, it could be literally anything.
Yeah.
But I was leaning towards the shadow person at first.
Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility, but that light is suspicious. That it might be alien related, but they're connected to alien beings anyway. So, but yeah, it did seem to change shape there. But if it's an interdimensional alien being, they distort light around themselves too. It's so tiny, and it seemed to be running like on two legs. So
yeah, it like kind of waddled a little bit is what I got from it. Like it was weird how it walked.
Yeah, because light with shadow beings doesn't usually something I usually hear about. So
well, I can tell you that the aliens that I've encountered wobble. They act very strange, But we're talking about grays, but yeah, they don't walk right.
Yeah.
So I have one more actual video to share, but this one I think is a little better than the last one. You can see it scurry back and forth. So let me screen share and pull that up for you guys.
These were captured in infrared mode. Is that correct, John?
Yes.
Just to give you a quick background too, Heidi, John is, and again, I don't know how much you know, but John is an abductee. His experiences began when he was 14 years old. And since he decided to, much later in life, come out and talk about his experiences, he has basically experienced every aspect of the paranormal that you and I could sit and name, but it's only been once for each different circumstance or event, and nothing has repeated itself. So that's just to give you a little background of what he deals with in his living room.
I appreciate it. Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. I wonder where you're living that's causing this. I mean, it's been how long has this been going on, since when?
I moved in here March 6th, and this has been starting since August. And it just gets more ramped up and more intense as time goes on. It's not something that's stopping. I'm like in the middle of this right now.
Oh, what state are you in?
I'm in PA. I live in Philadelphia.
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. Why does it seem like on the East Coast, it seems like it's just compacted all the haunty like stuff, because it's like so much older, and they just threw bodies everywhere. They buried them wherever. I don't know.
Yep. Yeah.
No, that's spooky, but might be on a potter's field for all we know.
I'm definitely.
So John, I'm gonna
go ahead. Dave.
I'm gonna add your screen share here.
Okay. All right. So this is now after I caught the first shadow person. I changed my perspective, knowing it went to this corner,
Yeah.
And so I was trying to capture the light and everything. But so I'm gonna play this video, and it starts off like immediately. So this heater area, you're gonna keep seeing the shadow scurry across and come back, and scurry across and come back. The green square that pops up is my camera's capturing motion, so it's detecting motion in the room.
Okay.
And while this is all going on, there's tons of orbs everywhere. But I'll start it off now. The shadow person pops up pretty immediately.
Okay.
And I'm home while this is happening, by the way. Just to let everybody know. That's me walking around like in my bedroom. So this shadow scurrying back and forth is definitely not me. And you can see the orbs kind of going around as well during this. And there it scurries back, and the motion sensor captures it. And then at one point it pops up here, and it hesitates to go across again, but then it finally does, and then comes right back. Like it doesn't make it all the way across. You can see it moving around back there a little bit.
That's disturbing.
Right here.
And it's short again.
Yes. And it looks like hunched over to me when it scurries across.
Why does it seem stuck in that certain corner? Like it's a...
I believe it's because it knows the camera's there. I think it runs back and forth because it doesn't want to be detected by the camera.
And shadow beings don't like to be caught. Yeah.
So it's kind of stuck in there right now, but it does try to make it across again a couple of times. Right there.
Here we go.
See how it goes back? It hesitates, and then it comes back up again. And it's kind of like deciding, like I don't know why it wants to go across, but then it comes back.
Look at that thing, huh?
That's amazing footage.
Now, this is me turning my kitchen light on. I'm getting ready for work. I tried to come into the living room and replicate my own shadow going across that heater, but I would have to be pretty much in the living room standing right here. You know, I wanted to double check everything before I shared this because I knew I was home at the time.
I'd be packing my bags. I mean, look at those orbs all over.
Yeah. Exactly.
Now watch the orb. Now this is like when I'm getting ready to leave. I turn the light off, and the motion sensor is still capturing something, but the orb activity is going to pick up as soon as I walk out of my door. So it's about another 45 seconds where the orbs just right there when I leave, they start going a little crazy.
When there's this much activity, I worry about people's health because they could start sucking you dry. That's a lot of activity.
I've been trucking along pretty good. You know, I've been pretty good, just hanging in there.
Tell her how you felt before you decided to come out and talk about your experience over the summer. Tell her what kind of man you were then.
Oh, yeah. Well, I kept a bunch of my stuff in for like 25 years almost, you know, and I was just terrified to the point where the fear consumed every aspect of my life. And
fear of what?
Just fear of basically my abduction. Like that consumed like everything. So when I did my first interview, when I told everybody my story for the first time in August, I felt the fear leave me. But at the same time, stuff like this started ramping up. Like I felt like I pulled a blockage out, and all this paranormal activity around me just wouldn't. It's like this is let me see. This is November 2nd. No, it's not too long ago.
The shadow beings tend to they hold souls in locations, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, and them being connected to alien beings, I'm not surprised. In all honesty, it's why people who have one type of experience, especially alien abductions, seem to have this other side of poltergeisty and shadow people stuff showing up.
That actually brings me to a question, Heidi. I'm an abductee, and I know other abductees have had experiences with shadow people. Do you think that there is a connection between abductees and the shadow people? And do they are they specifically, like, I don't know, tracking you, for lack of a better word, for the aliens?
Yeah, in a sense. So a little bit that I touched on earlier is, the beings that are abusing people, that are causing harm. Not, I don't see much innocence in taking people against their will, doing these horrible things on them and teaching them their language after they've raped them or whatever. That's not cool. So these beings, I've learned, have these dark influences of like this shadow race of beings. It's like a dark source that has formulated into this dark presence that infiltrates other races on other planets, so other species. And so they kind of work hand in hand. And I don't know if you guys know about my background with that. I had I don't recall ever being abducted, and I had seen major UFOs. So I joined this UFO and abduction group because I had witnessed major UFOs, and everybody in there were abductees except for me. And I'm like, okay. It wasn't that long after I joined. But I'd read the books. I know what's going on with a lot of these topics, and I woke up to loud sounds in my apartment. And I thought somebody broke in, and I'm like, oh my goodness, my phone's not near me, anything. And I'm like, so I'm like, I decided I'm going to put my feet on the ground and just run. My bedroom door is open, but there were like these fancy bars on my window. I couldn't get out. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to run like heck. And I go running through my living room to get out when I saw these tiny 4-year-old sized alien beings with their backs turned towards me. So long story short, gray alien beings were in my apartment. And I'm like, talking to them, yelling at them, what are you doing here? Who are you? Type of thing. And it was just a hot mess. It's just crazy. But the next day, these big black shadowy things were all in my apartment. I'm like, what on earth? What's going on here? I had seen some follow a friend of mine, but I didn't realize that there was any connection between what I'd seen the night before and these shadow beings. So I knew there was some connection, but I couldn't figure it out until a lot later. But yeah, so a lot of people, including myself, see one thing and experience the other stuff.
So yeah, I'm kind of curious about something. Heidi, you were on our podcast, the Paranormal News Network, over at PodBean a while back. And I had told you about the shadow person that was in our house. And I also mentioned that, it got so common that at one point I was just like, oh, hey, how you doing? And you said that was really kind of a bad thing to do because it feeds on that, and it's just going to stick around even more. It was about 6 months or so ago. I was talking to a spiritual medium who's a good friend of mine about it. And I had mentioned what you said, and she said, well, yeah, that could possibly be correct. She said, but I want to do a reading on this. And so she did. And she discovered that the thing apparently thought of itself as a prisoner and that I was its warden. And she told me, she said, the next time you see it, she said, confront it and say, hey, I don't know if you think that, I'm keeping you a prisoner, but I'm certainly not. And she said, just send it love and light. And so the next time I saw it, I did that. And, we haven't seen it in like 6 months. What's your take on that?
Wow.
I don't think that if it's a shadow being, I don't think it would feel that you were a ward to it, the warden to it, because it's all so negative. But whenever you're bringing light, I mean, even if it's physical light and God-given love light, they don't like it. So yeah, I'm not surprised it would like reduce its presence. That's why I tell people to bless their space to help get rid of them. So you putting love and light, where does that come from? God. You're like, I'm sending negative, garbage love. Well, yeah, it's going to leave. I would hope, so yeah. But no, feeding into it, talking to it, making it feel comfortable. No, you don't want that.
Yeah. So, I mentioned that we also had the spirit cat, and I was wondering if it was probably just a shapeshifted shadow person. But we still have that here. And every occasionally you'll feel it rub up against your leg or jump up on the bed or something like that, or even meow down the hallway, which again freaks out my own cat. And so, but yeah.
That's a scary situation. Well, I mean, it's acting a lot like a cat, so maybe it is a spirit cat of some sort. So, but there are shadow cats also. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've also heard that, there are shadow spiders and shadow snakes and
clouds
and
Yeah.
crawl up your wall and stuff.
Oh, I've had those are the ones I saw the most were shadow spiders. They would take up my whole ceiling. They're so nasty. And sometimes I'd see hundreds of them, little tiny ones. Oh, I saw, and even shadow orbs. That was just so many crazy things. I'm so glad to be rid of seeing so much of that. It was hard to get sleep.
Oh, I can imagine. So, I mean, spiders freak me out anyway. So,
Oh my gosh, same.
Ralph, we've largely ignored you here. What's your take on all this?
I think just like everything else, I think there are good shadow people and bad shadow people. I don't think they're all going to be bad just because, like you said, there has to be the opposite. Yeah, I mean, can't go ahead.
I think there's good and bad shadow people. There are opposites. It's called angels. So
Okay.
yeah, these things are like absent of light. I mean, just absolutely absent of light. So it's absence of feeling well, giving you your freedom to move. I mean, they seem to just totally oppress you. So it could be gradual, it could be quick. It depends on what they're feeding off from and how much nutrition you're giving them.
Well, I had mentioned earlier about the COVID-19 and about how they could possibly be attracted to, the anxiety and despair. But I think that is what the shadow person in our hallway was attracted to, because Ralph and I both have anxiety. Ralph also has PTSD on top of it. And so I think that's, and like, as I said before, I think like attracts like. And so, they come to exacerbate the situation.
They do. They exacerbate, and then they also create. They create the bad situations. Yeah, it's so many different scenarios I could just throw at you, but it's just so bad. I mean, I've had people who are like, I'm driving down the road. Next thing I know, I'm in an accident. But I had seen this guy in a suit standing next to the side of the road, watching me have the accident, smiling at me. Like, so what caused the accident? They don't know. I'm like, oh man. So what are we dealing with here, guys? It's bad stuff. It's like the craziest scenario. I've had stories that, I mean, from a 3-year-old being encouraged to commit suicide from Hat Man. I mean, there is no low that he won't go to. I mean, if this isn't the devil himself, because he says he is. He says he is. And he's going as low as you can imagine. And I don't know if he fully anticipated these stories coming together where people could compare notes at how low he has and can go, and what he's asking of people and what he's doing to people. But with this knowledge, I hope that people come to an understanding that what we're up against is not something to be taken lightly and to be in the middle, because he loves people sitting in the middle. I've had people say, I'm a good Christian guy, and Hat Man is threatening me constantly. And I'm like, I don't know what the weak point is, but he's got his angle at getting at people, and figuring that out is sometimes essential. Other times it's just knowing to change things from that point on and try to clarify, and first clear your space out, by blessing it so you can sleep at night. Because if he's lingering around all the time, it's just waiting for you to put your head down on the pillow to take advantage. He's a coward that way.
How to clear your space and how to bless your space? Because it sounds like you've been mentioning that a few times, and it sounds like it could be helpful. So can you give us a quick rundown?
So this is something that absolutely necessary, especially if there's an infiltration like what John has going on. So if you have a 2-story home, for example, you start this process in your basement and then go to the top floor and then your main floor. And what it is that you do is you go to the furthest room, and if from like your stairs or the front of your home, and in that furthest room, you go to the furthest corner and use holy water or spring water that you leave on your ledge by your window for a couple of hours. It's like the sun helping to cleanse it or put in some of the God's creation light in it. It's something that I usually do. I don't usually use holy water. And then use a cross necklace, like I have my cross necklace on, and go to that furthest corner and you dip your cross necklace in the water and make the sign of a cross and say something brief like, in Jesus' name, keep all negative things out. I do it in that corner, in between the corners, each window, go to the next corner and get each corner in the closets too. So open the closet, do each corner, and then close the door and bless the door and do the center of the room. And all the while you're having the door to that room open, then step out of that room and seal the door, close it with the same blessing. You go down the hall, you do the next room. When you get to the main door of your home, you open the door and you say like a more significant prayer. And it's best to have the whole family participate if you can. And say, your short prayer and like, you're not welcome, get out of here type of thing. Then close the door and you seal it with the same kind of blessing splash cross. And then for me, for added protection, because I'm out talking against these things and they love to hate me. And so I don't ever take mine off. So I have my protection with me wherever I go, because these things would come at me otherwise. So it's and there's some people who's like, I'm a kid, I'm only got this room, I don't want to do the whole house, it's not my place. Just bless your room, keep it out. And you might have nightmares because that's its method to try to get in again. But it takes its time to get out, but it eventually will, and not unless it's gotten into you a bit. People get possessed by these things. So if this is not working, there's another level that you need to go to, and that is seeking the help of clergy and the support of family and friends, because the possession is real. It's real, and it's disturbing. And so when it gets to that level, definitely call in the troops on that. And there's so many people that write me talking about, when I went to the church, they said, well, you're not a member here. So no, or you didn't donate money, and then we'll think about it. So there's a lot of challenges out there. So I do my best to try to tell people what they can do. But when it comes to possession, that's a whole other ball game.
Guys, you have any other comments or questions or anything?
I have a comment. As far as my experience with the shadow person, I've never felt a negative or a threatening feeling. I'm not saying that it's not a negative thing. It's just the feeling that I had. It just seemed curious to me. It was the way I perceived.
I get a lot of people that say, well, it didn't scare me. I didn't feel nothing from it. And I'm like, it just, I wouldn't want to wait for it to get threatening. But eventually, if it sticks around long enough and as your comfort level grows, it grows. So I would not want to entertain it if you don't. I mean, I know it blows my mind because I have a lot of people that want to show me proof and evidence. And I'm like, okay, what do you want to do about it? You want to get rid of it, or are you really liking this presence being there? And I don't know sometimes it's a mixed answer that I get. And some people think, well, maybe it's guarding. because I wasn't afraid of it. And I'm like, did you invite it in? Is it something that you're enjoying? Is it cleaning up after itself? I mean, it's not.
It's not paying rent.
Yeah, it's absent of light, for crying out loud. It is absent of light, and it's scurrying and hiding for a reason. If I wanted to take something from you, I'm going to hide too. It is trying to not be positive in your life. And the longer you allow it there, you're just asking for it. And it knows it. And it's like, oh, he knows. It's going to still try to hide and avoid. But I mean, the longer you tolerate it, it is just bad news. And so, I mean, I'll get your email later, I guess, because I'm like, it's out of control. It is out of control. I would hope that people will stand up for it. It's entertaining to a point, like, okay, you got your proof. It's there. Now what? I mean, are you going to wait till it starts possessing and oppressing, and you start feeling depressed and you just don't know why? Gosh, I don't know why I feel, or you get sick with cancer. That happens too. So it just keeps building up. And because it didn't scare you, that's good. So you're still strong against it. So kick it out. Be done with it. Don't allow it to sit there in your space, because it's all so bad. You got a lot of activity going on. I had a guy that loved to take pictures of orbs. He got wonderful pictures of orbs. Him and his wife, within a month, she got breast cancer and he got bone cancer. I mean, it's just not cool. I mean, these horrible stories I could just tell you, and it's like, I mean, I don't know. It's like, can't we be more entertained with trying to capture angels or fairies on tape? I just don't know. I don't know. It's like, oh, let's play with the Ouija board next and see if it'll talk. Oh my God. Oh my God. It's like, please, Lord, please. What are we doing here? So I'm hoping that people are not so amused with this darkness. I have 8 books out there and only 3 are on this dark stuff. Guess what I only get asked about?
Yeah, of course.
Dark stuff. It's like, I wrote about my Jesus encounters. I had 3 healings. They can't explain them. Anybody interested? No. Let's talk about demons and the devil raping people. So we do.
I think people are always attracted to the dark side more than anything else.
Yeah, and that's why it's so dominant here. And this is why we have the problem that we do. So I'm hoping to create a balance. I mean, it's not a popular thing to say, oh, she's saying the word Jesus, or, it's like, I can't help it, but to keep it real and be on the level with, tried and true for thousands of years, methods. And I would have never thought that I would be going full circle back to things I was taught sitting in a church pew, which I absolutely hated, but I had several encounters. I mean, I was cured of a brain aneurysm, brain tumor, and other things because Jesus showed up. Now, that's pretty miraculous. It's not impressive enough, though, yet. But I'm hoping that people get the point that we're dealing with real evil. We're sitting here, we got so much technology at our fingertips, and we're still talking about some creatures that are walking through the walls. What are we missing here? And why are we questioning what could really work against such things? I mean, I just, I'll tell you, I think that some of the problems that we're at right now is because, back in the day, way back when, we trusted the wizards to go and learn stuff. And we, sowed the lands, kept him fed and all this stuff because we trusted he'd come back and tell us what he learned. But instead, he kept those secrets to himself. So we're sitting there just, keeping up with our same junk, and he's expanding his mind, and then he finds another wizard, and this has become our government. And they know things. They know about interdimensional beings. I have been interrogated by military people. If I'm so wrong, why are they messing with me? They have taken me 3 times, you know, and it's like, what do you want to know? You know, it's at levels. It's so ridiculous. They are so clear in the knowledge. And if they had just taken the time to keep mankind to the same pace that they were learning, this wouldn't seem so mystical or mythical. This is absolutely going on right now. And I learned just a couple of years ago that my own father was involved with stuff. I'm like, you kept this whole time? You know, this is so real. These negative things and positive things, there's a big understanding. The most powerful government in the world has thousands of embassies around the world. They're called churches, and it's called the Vatican in charge. Why do they have the most powerful observatories? What are they looking at? I heard them say about our space brothers and sisters. So, you know, there's a lot of interconnecting things here, and they just are not coming clean about it, and they won't. They will not. They want to keep that power. Those wizards want that power.
Somebody in our chat room who goes by the name of Quantum Vortex Energy was basically saying the same thing you're saying right now. Evidently, he works somehow in the government, I guess. But yeah, I mean, and so yeah, I think that, you know, there's a lot of things going on with the black budgets and that kind of thing. And certainly this could be one of them, but that's why I asked you earlier, what's a historical reference behind this? Another thing is that I'm losing my train of thought.
I'm just looking at quantum. I totally didn't see the chat over here. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that that's entirely possible. However, I think that you know, there are some powerful organizations out there that do create things like this. So I wonder if that could be a feasible explanation.
Oh, it is, because this is not so extraordinary when, you know, these so many people in power here among us, walking among us, know these things, and they don't bat an eye at it. So it's frustrating. It's really frustrating because this knowledge is within reach, but they just don't want everybody to have it, because people, mankind, they love power. And that's one of the reasons why these beings are here. They want the land too. They want the power. And they're going planet by planet, turning each being on their brother. I mean, just being able to say they did that, it's a crazy chain that we're all stuck in. And I hope to bring some light to understanding. We can come out of this. We really can. We just have to not be afraid to. And, you know, there's a lot of power behind words.
Oh, absolutely. Totally agree. Michael Wild, do you have any comments or questions?
I just want to thank all.
I just want to say hi.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, it was nice meeting you, and I want to say
thanks. I appreciate it. I'm always honest. I can't help but to be painfully honest, because this is it's so important. It's so important. And
yeah, I want to say the same thing to you as well, Heidi. I really appreciate your thoroughness in what you're presenting, and I also appreciate your perspective, because I do see where you're coming from, and though I may not necessarily agree with everything that you're saying, there's a very strong core that runs through there that does resonate with me, and I appreciate your tenacity, your passion, and your capacity to present this stuff. So
thanks.
I hope to see more of you. Yes.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. You had really interesting questions. So I like when people have thought about it, you know. It's like, you know, it's like, it really, because it's so it rips my heart out. And I sit here reading emails with tears in my eyes, like, not another one. It's like over and over, and we're at this weird thing. But I want to welcome your viewers and everybody to reach out to me and write me as big of an email as they want about what it is they're experiencing, from everything from angels to aliens and of course shadow beings, because
come on,
it's something that
let's go. Come on.
Go to HeidiHollis.com. So
Don't be silly. Come on. Green.
You got your cat there, Michael?
I'm sorry. I had just my internet was silly and I didn't know whether it was going to connect back up again. So I missed the last like maybe 30 seconds of what you guys were talking about.
Well, hey, I think we are going to get out of here for the night. Heidi, again, thank you very much for being on the program with us. And John Carty, that footage is just amazing. I thought I was just blown away by this footage. I think it's probably the best footage I've ever seen of a shadow person or whatever it is, But anyway, viewers, thank you also for being here with once again. We do this every Sunday evening, 8 o'clock 8 o'clock Eastern time and 5 o'clock Pacific time. So definitely join us and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you're notified every time we're about to load up a new live chat. But anyway, folks, again, thanks a lot for watching. And until next time, keep thinking and question everything.